and we'll go ahead and get started tonight. Others may join us as they come in. We're on Exodus 4. The last two chapters has kind of been talking about Moses, and at least the last chapter is talking with God directly about what was going on and what he's supposed to do when he reaches Egypt and all the different things. And today it's kind of like denying denying everything. He kind of, it's okay to question God on certain things, but then you can go too far, with it too. Verse 1 says, And Moses answered and said, But behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, The Lord hath not appeared unto thee. Okay, last week it talked about, who shall I say sent me? And he told him, I am. He told him, I am sent you. And went through all that. Well, now he's starting to have a little doubt because they wouldn't even listen to him when he was, Pharaoh's not favorite, but next in line to Pharaoh. He was in the succession. Would have, at least that appears to be, even though he was adopted. He should have been recognized. So he's starting to think back now 40 years ago and see what might happen. They said, what if they don't believe, that I talked to you? And the Lord said unto him, What is that in thine hand? And he said, A rod. And he said, Cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses fled from before it. So he's trying to show him, give him a example of what he can show the people. It says it's not a good thing to ask for signs, because signs convince people, but then they, as we see later on, the magicians can do the similar signs, and it, loses its potency. But in this particular instance, he was out there by himself, and he had a rod, his shepherd's hook, probably shepherd's staff, that was with him, and he threw it on the ground, and it became a snake. And it was evidently a real snake, because it scared the life out of Moses. I'm sure he had seen many snakes being out in the desert for the last 40 years, tending the sheep. I'm sure some of the sheep got bit, things like that, trying to take care of it. But when he cast it, Moses fled before it. Then the Lord said unto Moses, Put forth thine hand and take it by the tail. And he put forth his hand and caught it, and it became a rod. So he's asking him now to take the rod, or take the snake up by the tail. One of the hardest places to catch a snake is by the tail, because the head's going to come around and bite you. But this was a different type of snake, or one that God was in control of. So he did that. He went ahead and he took it, and it became a rod again. And we see several times that God uses what we have. If you can look these up, but God used what was in Shagmeyer's hand, and I think it was a tent stake. I think that's when she drove it through the Sisera. I think that was his name. God used what was in David's hand in 1 Samuel. God used a jawbone of a donkey in Samson's hand. And then God used 5 loaves and 2 fishes in the hand of a little boy. So God will give us what we need for the journey. He even told the disciples, the 70, when he sent them out 2 by 2, don't take an extra coat, don't take any money, don't take any of this. The people will provide for you along the way. You'll be taken care of. So we see that God will use what we have. Sometimes we think it won't go far enough, or it's not enough to, take us where we need to be, but God will do what he needs to do. So we just have to understand and believe. So when he reached out and took it, first of all, he had to have a little bit of faith that it wasn't going to bite him, that he kind of knew that maybe it turned back into a rod because that's what it was before. So he said that this was a sign. It says, the Lord said unto Moses, put forth thine hand, take it by the tail. And he put it forth his hand and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand, that they may believe that the Lord God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, God of Jacob, hath appeared unto thee. Now we're still talking about the Israelites. We're not yet talking about the Egyptians, because the Egyptians, they have even a harder time understanding this. But that he's really talking to God. So he reemphasizes, like Brother Epperson said a week or so ago, of who he is. He's God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, and he's the one that appeared unto me. So this is showing them again what God is, who God is, and that he has sent Moses to help them escape Egypt. Like I said, they've been here over 400 years. They had gotten complacent in their slavery, basically. Some of them probably had a relatively easier jobs than others, but God wanted them to go back to the promised land the way he told them he wanted them to do in the very first place. And then the next 3 verses, he gives them another sign. It says, and the Lord said furthermore unto him, put now thine hand into thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. And he said, put thine hand into the bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as the other flesh. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe also these 2 signs, neither hearken unto thy voice, that thou shalt take of the water of the river and pour it upon the dry land, and the water which thou takest out of the river shall become blood upon the dry land. So he's given them 3 different signs, 2 additional signs here, that to show them that he is talking about the God of the universe, that God, what he saw, is who he talked to, is who he was, and this is why he told them to do these things. The first one was to show the leprous, kind of what we today would say cancerous, on his hand, on his skin, going from, being fine to leprous and going back, that's a sign. At that particular time, anybody that got leprosy, they were ostracized, as far as they were put out. They didn't have any part to do with their family. It was usually, most of the time, it represented a bunch of different diseases. So we really don't know exactly, but it was contagious. As you go through and read Numbers and Deuteronomy, that you have to go through, if there's any part of it that they're warned, they have to tear, destroy their clothes. If they're in a house, they have to clean the house thoroughly and go through. There's a whole bunch of laws that you have to go through this, all according to this leprous hand or leprosy that it's given. So the first
still is, but there used to be a leper colony in Hawaii.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there probably are overseas too. It's still more prevalent over there, but it is similar to what we would call cancer, especially of the skin. But I mean, what I've seen, or what the pictures I've seen, it'll just eat the nose off of people, eat their face, eat, their limbs off, fingers, all these things. So they were very scared of it. As something that it happened and then it changed back when they saw Moses change it back, it would really, scare them. They'd really have to look at it. They would be in awe. It would be something that, even us, we should see and believe it, but, some people won't, as today. And then the final thing was the water. Take the water out, pour it out up on the ground, and it'll become blood. And it's kind of representing what he's going to do a lot more than what he did with than this. He'll do it different ways, and when they go through the plagues, where they won't even be able to drink any water. They said this they should follow. They should listen to you after these 3 signs that they've given unto you. And then Moses comes up with another kind of thing for him. And Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of slow of tongue. To me, this, I always thought that he could speak very well. And that may have been true somewhat, but I think being in the royal family, he would know how to speak and how to, he may get nervous when he was speaking. I don't know. But anyway, this was his excuse for not wanting to be this leader. I know a guy once talk about slow of speech. You've probably all seen different movies where the person talks and they talk real slow. And that's this particular guy that I knew. He did that. He was from the South. Okay. And, it's just like, hurry up, get your message across. We're just trying to get what you need. And sometimes that is a little unnerving to people. They, especially if you're from New York or Boston, all those fast talkers up there. But I think that's what it meant more so. He says he's slow to speech and slow of tongue. He was brought up for 40 years in Egypt, so he should have known the language, but it's been 40 years since he's used that language. He's gone back and now he's not using Egyptian. They're using, I don't know if the Midianites used a different language or if they used what they used. So he may have been referring to that too, that, well, things have changed. I don't know the language now, blah, blah, blah. He's just trying to make up an excuse for another excuse for not going. And the Lord said unto him, who hath made man's mouth, or who maketh the dumb or deaf or the seeing or the blind? Have not I the Lord? So he's telling him, you don't think I can put words in your mouth? You don't think I can take care of you by your speech? But yet Moses persisted, and he said, I will be now, therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth and teach thee what thou shalt say. And he said, O my Lord, send, I pray thee, by thy hand of whom thou wilt send. So here he's getting a little testy a little bit, as far as he keeps putting him off on this one. He said in verse 14, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? I know he can speak well. And also, behold, he cometh forth to meet thee. And when he seeth thee, he will be glad in his heart. So Aaron was his older brother. We know that. And Aaron was a priest. He was a Levite in the Levite tribe. I'm not sure if he was a priest, but he was in that tribe. So he knew exactly he was brought up, raised, in the Israelites' ways. And evidently, we can see a little later on by his speech that he's a kind of a shyster. I mean, he's slick word. Okay. He talks fast and kind of makes up things as he goes. It kind of looks like to me.
Wonder how he knew that it said, and behold, he cometh forth to meet thee. Wonder how he knew that Moses was coming back to town.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. And I kind of looked at that at first like, oh, he's coming up to Midian to meet him, but no, he wasn't. He somehow, when Moses went down, he met him, and we'll read that in the last part of this, I think. Yeah. But I evidently God's working on him on both ways. He's working on him, on Aaron and them, and also on Moses. Said, and thou shalt speak unto him and put words in his mouth, and I will be with thy mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you what ye shall do. Now, one thing that people miss is God didn't talk to Aaron. He talked to Moses. And Moses still had to talk to Aaron and tell him what God said. Okay. He didn't choose Aaron. He chose Moses. And sometimes, you get the gist of it. Being brothers, maybe they had, something, they kind of understood where they's coming from or something. But anyway, a lot of people get that. And later on, Aaron kind of gets a little haughty himself. But that's what he says right here. I will put it in your mouth. I'll talk to you, and then you talk to him, and you will teach him what he should do. And he shall be thy spokesman unto the people, and he shall be to thee instead of a mouth, and thou shalt be to him instead of God. So he's the go-between. I mean, Moses is the go-between between Aaron and God. And thou shalt take...
Makes the type of Christ.
Exactly. He's in between God and man. And thou shalt take this rod in thy hand, wherewith thou shalt do signs. And those are the signs, of course, that he's given him already. We know, talked about. So verse 18 says, and Moses went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law. So he was still out here tending the sheep and out talking with God from the burning bush. So now he goes back and he tells his father-in-law, said unto him, let me go, I pray thee, and return unto my brethren which are in Egypt, and see whether they be yet alive. And Jethro said to Moses, go in peace. So he basically gave him permission that he could go and go down to Egypt. And it's a long ways. Like we said, it's not a small journey to take. Said, the Lord said unto Moses in Midian, go, return into Egypt, for all the men are dead which saw thy life. So Moses went ahead, took his wife and his sons, and set them upon an ass, and he returned to the land of Egypt, and Moses took the rod of God in his hands. Then the Lord said unto Moses, when thou goest to return unto Egypt, see that thou do all these wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in thine hand, but I will harden his heart that he shall not let thy people go. Now, to me, he's told him this a couple of times that he's not going to let you go. We're going to have to do a lot of work with him. It's not going to be easy just to let it go. So here he's just reinforcing that don't get your hopes up type deal, that he is going to make a way, because if they just let him go that first time, they wouldn't have been able to get the the bounty, their reward for being slaves. So it went through the 10 plagues and all that, where the people were finally, okay, we'll give them anything just to get out of here. And that's what
it's like a double-edged sword. You got Israel wanting to go, and you got Egypt wanting them to leave.
That's right. Both ways. So thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus saith the Lord, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. And I say unto thee, let my son go, that he may serve me. And if thou refuse, let him go. Behold, I will slay thy son, even thy firstborn. Now, we talked last week that he told him we want to go out and, 3 days journey and pray. And he'd already told him he's going to harden his heart and not do that. And here it's kind of reemphasizing again, he's going to not do this. And he's going to want these, you're going to show him the signs. You show the people the signs. Now you're going to show Pharaoh the signs, but that's still not going to convince him. Okay. And here he's telling him, if you don't do this, your firstborn's going to die. And it's not only Pharaoh's firstborn, it'll be all the firstborn of Egypt, as we learn later on. But that's one of the things that he's told Moses to tell him up front. So all through this, as each of the plagues come upon them and they start seeing it and it happens, in the first couple of 3 or 4, I can't remember how many, the magicians can duplicate it, but after that, the magicians can't. So then they start seeing, okay, and Pharaoh's kind of getting in a tight spot. He knows what he's been told is going to happen, but yet he doesn't want to lose face with the people. And that's why it kind of, to him, he keeps waffling back and forth. He wants, and one point he tells him to go, and then he tells him, you can't, type deal. Changes his mind. But ultimately, when they leave, they will leave with Egypt's blessing as far as leaving. And then, of course, the Pharaoh has a change of heart again. We'll learn that a little later. Verse 24, and it came to pass, by the way, this is kind of a shift, little sidebar on this story. And it came to pass by the way of the end that the Lord met him and sought to kill him. Now, this is talking about Moses. We talked about this just a few weeks ago in the hard passages that we had in our Sunday school lesson. Said, then Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her son and cast it at his feet and said, surely a bloody husband art thou to me. So he let him go. Then she said, a bloody husband thou art because of the circumcision. So if we go back and look, it said that the Lord met him and sought him to kill him. Now let's remember, even though they were Midianites and serving God, they weren't God's promised people. Okay. So circumcision was most likely not a part of their normal process of the birthing of the child and all this stuff. That was given to Abraham and his descendants. And even though he was part of, as far as the Midianites were part of that, he had sons later on, it fell away evidently, because it fell away even here, because Moses evidently did not have his son circumcised, son or sons circumcised when they were supposed to be. That's part of God's law that he gave to Abraham. Maybe it was because she was a Midianite, his wife. Maybe he had forgot about it. Maybe, we don't know why. But it appears, if you go to the chapter 25, it says, then Zipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her son. So normally Moses would have done this, but now she has to do it. We don't know why, but Moses is petrified, or he doesn't do it for some reason, because God going to kill him, sought to kill him, and he was just kind of didn't know what to do. So Zipporah had to do it, and because of that, that's why she's calling him a bloody husband. So he let him go. Then she said, "A bloody husband art thou because of the circumcision." She may have been resisting the first time, and then God showed her in order, I'm going to kill Moses if you don't do this. So it may have been like Moses was supposed to do this. You're not letting him do it. So now you're going to have to do it in order to get Moses not killed. It's a sidebar story, and it just ties back into the story of Abraham and circumcision, the covenant that was there. But it's just so kind of out of place. It's just a little tiny story in this piece of it.
I love that what it says there. Perhaps it's the first time she recognized the serious nature of her husband's call, and now it's important for the whole family to walk in the ways of the Lord.
That's right. That's right. It brought the attention. At first, it may have been, oh boy, we're getting ready to go to Egypt, going to have a vacation time. I think that's right. I think it called attention that this is serious business. This is going to be, doing God's work. So the last 4 or 5 scriptures here that Israel accepts the call of Moses. It says, "And the Lord said to Moses, go into the wilderness," said to Aaron, "Go into the wilderness to meet Moses." And he went and met with him in the mount of God. So we see that God was working on both ends. He'd already told him, go meet Moses, told him where he's going to meet him. And Moses told Aaron all the words of the Lord, which had sent him, and all the signs which he had commanded him. And Moses and Aaron went and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel. And Aaron spake all the words which the Lord had spoken unto Moses, and did the signs in the sight of the people. Now they probably still remembered Moses as far as being, Aaron's brother and everything, but Aaron had been there. He'd built their trust up. He'd gotten them. That wasn't a bad idea, but he could have still gotten across, because then, okay, he's Aaron's brother. Aaron trusts him, so we can trust him type deal. But in this particular case, he causes trouble later on. I'll just say that way. So, and Moses and Aaron went and gathered all the elders together, and Aaron spoke of the words which the Lord had spoken unto Moses, and did the signs in the sight of the people. And the people believed, and when they heard that the Lord had visited the children of Israel, and that they had looked upon their affliction, then they bowed their heads and worshiped. So they got together, the people, and then the elders also spread the word to the people. And as they went through, they told them, Moses is going to lead us back to our promised land that he's given us. So that is all I have. We'll see y'all online Sunday, I guess.
Okay.
And next week, if you don't mind, we'll do it on Tuesday, because I have my little procedure that I will be incapacitated about this time next week. So, all right, we'll talk to y'all later. Let me stop the recording.